The Dustbin of History. Do you know that he's the world's expert on crab urine? Ross Keister asked me this question as we chat in the herpetology lab in the Museum of Vertebrate Zoology. The year is 1965. Ross and I are undergraduate zoology majors at UC Berkeley. I look up to Ross because he has a savvy grasp on the goings-on in the Department of Zoology. Ross's capsule summary of a career refers to Professor Ralph I. Smith, who is also our instructor in introductory zoology and in invertebrate zoology. We both chuckle at Ross's witty appraisal. A natty dresser, Professor Smith wears a cord around his neck with a magnifier attached to it and tucks it into the front pocket of his khaki shirt. Smith is friendly and helpful. He is always ready to pull out his magnifier and identify any specimen or structure that a student might present to him. As an undergraduate, I don't appreciate that Smith is a respected researcher and a beloved member of his department. Nor do I expect that Smith will have the last laugh. Throughout his career, Smith basks in the glory of his accomplishments right up to the time of his retirement. On at least one occasion, Ralph Smith attains the status of hero among his colleagues at Berkeley. One of his colleagues is Frank Petelka, an accomplished ecologist, who is well regarded by professional and department colleagues alike. Uninformed undergraduates like Ross and me interpret Petelka's imperial and aloof manner to be a variety of pomposity. He seems to be looking down his nose at us. The tables are turned one day at the Zoology Department seminar, which is held every Friday in a narrow lecture hall. At one end of the room, a lecture platform faces 100 seats, which are arranged in increasingly elevated rows towards the back of the room. The only entrance to the room is on the left in the middle of the hall. On the day in question, the speaker is up-and-coming ecologist William W. Murdoch, who has recently earned his DPhil at Oxford. Murdoch is giving lectures across the country as he makes his way to his new professorial position at the University of California at Santa Barbara. Professor Murdoch is introduced and opens his talk with a dramatic flourish. "Ecology today is a mess." Some in the audience instantly wonder who among them will be pillared by Murdoch. But just as quickly, the thought vanishes as Frank Petelka throws open the lecture hall door and steps into the room. All eyes in the room pivot to Petelka as Ralph Smith in the front row announces, "Enter Frank Petelka." The entire room erupts in laughter as Petelka scrambles to find a seat with a bewildered look on his face. Some of us want to carry Smith out of the room on our shoulders. Later in my career, I learned not to make fun of the research of others. For one thing, my own research on the courtship of salamanders sounds ludicrous or risky to some of my colleagues. U.S. Senator William Proxmire is the other thing. Proxmire makes the entire country laugh at academics every year by ridiculing their research proposals to the U.S. National Science Foundation. Proxmire wants the American public to believe that they are being hoodwinked into funding research on outrageous topics. At his annual Golden Fleece Award ceremony, Proxmire announces the titles of these grants as well as the names of the funded researchers. Researchers across the country strive to avoid Proxmire's scrutiny. The staff of the National Science Foundation coaches investigators on how to title their proposals and craft their rationales so that they won't be publicly embarrassed by Proxmire. This low-profile approach to Proxmire's Golden Fleece Awards continues for 13 years. Finally, the annual comedy show ends. A behavioral scientist, Ronald Hutchison, sues Proxmire for defamation and wins. The resulting bill for $10,000 rocks Proxmire back on his heels. Proxmire stops his shenanigans, and his Senate colleagues follow suit to avoid similar lawsuits. In the fullness of time, Proxmire and his mean-spirited agenda are swept into the dustbin of history. Experts on crab urine and salamander courtship once again hold their heads high and proudly march forward in their quest for knowledge.